Hello, welcome to my week 4 assignment. On this project, I came up with an idea that I can create an app, a website, no, a web application for farmers. Knowing that food industry and agriculture industry is vast and is the backbone of many economies. I thought, well, why don't I empower farmers with a tool they can use to manage and streamline their operations? So this app is a Next.js application that I've come up with. So I'm going to log in, and I already created an account. And let me just go log in and walk you through what the app can do and future developments. While signing in, might take a while. Okay, so I'm in the app right now. So let me try to refresh. Um, okay, so when I sign in, I'm taken to the dashboard, which is currently loading. And oops, I'm redirected again. Um, okay, let's see. It should be working. Okay, so here's the application. It's not so big, but it works. So here, a farmer is able to see critical information about their farm. For example, they can see how many crops they have at their farm, active task, what those that are on the list, activities. I mean, to do list of things that they need to get done on their farm, and any tasks that are overdue, and total yield. Let's say if they have a harvest coming up or that was done recently, they can be able to see it over here. And now they can see resource usage, how much water they've used. I mean, sections of agriculture, I mean, of irrigation they've been doing, as in, I mean, fields have been irrigated, and fertilizer application, how many bags of fertilizers have they applied to different fields for each crop. And then they can see critical information about health and issues with to do with their plants, total incidents um, of incidences could be, I mean, let's say when they've gone to the field and they've been doing pest scouting, when they see an incident that there is, of course, grasshoppers, bugs, or anything, they can be able to report on their system so that they can execute and apply necessary pesticides, if there are weeds, herbicides, and so on. And they can also identify diseases, it could be fungal diseases, and so on. So that will be reported. Now, for a quick demo, we're going to see manage crops. Um, so they can manage their crops, they can view tasks on this blue icon, they can log activities, they can view reports. Now, let me go to crops. It might take a while again since it's on localhost to load. But basically, on the crop section, they should be able to record a crop. Let's wait. Okay, it's loading. Okay, so here on the crops, you see have none as of now, but they can later on add a crop. So add a new crop. They can say a tomato, for example, tomato, and then they can choose a planting date. Let's say it was today. They can see how many square meters have they planted. So we can say um, 100 square meters, which is 10 by 10, which is unlikely, or they can have 10,000 square meters, which is 1 hectare. So I'm going to say 10,000 square meters, which is a hectare. If it's true, that means 20,000 square meters. And then they can see if it's a what kind of a variety can it be. Here in Zimbabwe, we have a variety called Tengeru, and then they can see, of course, they harvest in 3 months. So if I go to, I think, I'll say, let's say that's when they start harvesting, and then they can add the crop. And when they add, it's, it should be displayed on the bottom unless there's a bug that I didn't fix. Um, but basically, that's what the crop management section does or page does. And then let's just go next to the task. Um, so on the task page, a user wants to see how many tasks they have, how many to-dos do they have, and what can they do. So they can sort based on priority and crops or category. So, and they can mark overdue only if that's necessary. So they can say add new task, a new format shows pops up. They can add a task. They can choose how urgent that task is or how impactful is it on their field, on their farm. If it's of low priority, then it's a low priority task, and so on. They can go to set a date. What kind of a task is it? Is it a planting task, an irrigation task, a fertilization task, pest control, harvesting, maintenance, you name it. I think in the future I can add custom a feature for custom categories, and then they can add a description. And when that's done, that will show on the dashboard. Now, on the activities, they're going to it's kind of similar to task, but here it's specific for each several tasks. Remember, on the category, it's several pest fertilization and all that. So on the irrigation, we can say what crop do I have? In this case, I haven't created a crop, so that's why you see I don't have a crop right now. Then there's duration. How long is it going to take? Pretty much a hectare will take a few hours depending on the method of irrigation. If it's a day, I mean, if it's a hectare and you're using drip irrigation, that's like less than 6 hours, the whole field will be done, which is quite awesome, I think. And then they can set the date, and then the water amount, how many liters of water are they thinking they would apply. So if there's a tank, that's an easy way to count. If you refill your tank twice, that means if it's a 5,000 liter tank, that means if it's twice, you've used 10,000 liters of water for that hectare for that day. And then they can log irrigation. They can do the similar thing with fertilization, pest diseases, harvest, and so on. The cool part now is at the end, you want to see how all the information is integrated in the system. So now you can have analytics and reports for your farm based on crop and so on. And then you can later on export. So you can see here you have total crops, active task, total yield, and water usage. And the water usage report, fertilization report, how many bags of fertilizer have you used for different crops for a certain season or so, how many pest incidences have been reported. This is important because then you can then alert, and there's I think in every country there's an organization that deals with pests and diseases, so you can then inform them, oh, at my farm I've had this many incidences of this kind of a pest or disease. Hear me out, help me out, something like that. And then you can also report on harvest. If it were tomatoes, that means you can report how many, you can see, not report, you can see how many harvests you have had per hectare, per whatever field you have had. And then that's pretty much the front end of the app. Now let's go to the code. So I've used Next.js framework for this, and here's the project structure. I have my Prisma client for easier of database deployment through Vercel, and I have my source, that's where the source code is, and I'm using app router. And in the app router, I have, of course, login. When logging in, this is the code, and for registering, you get the code again, use a page, and then we have API for each endpoint in the app. If it's a task, if it's a crop, if it's a harvest, we want the app to communicate with different data points. So that's why we have this API directory for each endpoint. For example, if it's analytics, we have the route for that, and functions, which are JavaScript functions that um, allows us to iterate over information. And then there's crops and so on. And there's also the dashboard, which is at the root of the app, and it has several interfaces that expects a certain type of data, if it's a number, if it's a string, or something. So we have the dashboard statistics, which is what we see right here. Let me just quickly go through. Um, Come on, my machine is not so fast. Come on, it's taking time to compile. Let's see. But pretty much, I can just use the reports. For example, this statistics is kind of similar to what we have on the dashboard, which is perfect. Let me just go to um, okay, where am I? API. Okay, we're done with API, but pretty much the reports right here. These interfaces, you see a report data, there's dashboard, there's water. I mean, the dashboard has water, fertilizer, and the expected data types, and so on. And of course, I have several components, which are all again JavaScript functions and so on. So that's pretty much this app. This is the V1 of the app, which is the first version, and I hope to continue working on it to make sure that it's robust. Of course, I didn't show my database, right? I didn't. So let me just show you my database. Of course, there's a profile section for managing the profile and so on. So for data, we're going to go here. This is my database, schemas and interfaces for each and what they expect, remember? So this is I mean the functions for retrieving data from the database, and, and then I have my Prisma I've been talking of, and then I have my middleware for session management for different routes, and then types, of course, we go here. Um, of course, I have validations again because we want to make sure that we get the expected valid or ID for each data point. So we have validations to make sure that when we get an incorrect call, then it won't work. We'll get an error message. For example, invalid crop ID if we get a string instead of a number or something like that. And then that's pretty much the app. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll be keeping you posted on the video and the progress of this farm management software. And I think in the near future, I'll integrate AI so that it's conversational. You talk about your farm, if we have your domain, the foodsman, as we call it, and then they can help you around the software. Okay, thank you so much.